Troy was just another guy, another average dude, living a life he never chose. He'd wake up tired, go to bed frustrated, and in between, he tried to fake like everything was fine. The truth? He was on the verge of falling apart. No direction, no purpose, no consistency. He talked about goals but never followed through. Had dreams, but zero discipline. Every Monday felt like a fresh start. Every Wednesday, a relapse. It was a cycle, a prison. Troy kept comparing himself to everyone else, blaming himself nonstop, drowning in silence. No one saw it. No one knew. Until one day, something inside him snapped. And what was left? Rage, pain, hunger. A need to change or die trying. He stopped making deals with his weakness, threw the excuses out, and took on a new identity. A man at war with his old self. Troy rebuilt his mind, reprogrammed his mindset, put discipline above motivation, action above emotion. And when the pain hit, he stayed. When the loneliness crept in, he kept going. When life tested him, he answered with consistency. Today, he's living proof that the impossible folds to those who never stop. This is Troy's story, and it starts at the lowest point imaginable. Troy's fall didn't happen overnight. It was slow, quiet. One day at a time, he drifted further from who he could have been. No screaming, no warning signs. Just the alarm ringing for the 5th time that week and getting ignored. Just the work bag tossed in a corner. Just his dreams shoved in a drawer, waiting for another year to go by. Troy kept saying he was going to change, but every promise he made to himself, he broke. I'm just tired. This week was rough. I'll start when things get better. He became an expert at giving excuses with a victim's voice. His mindset fed on comparison and guilt. He compared himself to those who had already made it and blamed himself for not even starting. Little by little, his confidence faded. His identity blurred. He no longer knew who he was, only what he had failed to become. His routine was simple. Wake up late, work with no passion, come home exhausted, scroll on his phone until he passed out. Always haunted by the same thought. I could be living a different life, and he really could, but he wasn't, because he knew the path, just didn't have the guts to take the first step. That's what destroys a man. Not failure, but knowing exactly what to do and still not doing it. One night, Troy hit his limit, alone in his room, in the dark, just him and silence. And right there, he broke. No tears, just rage. Rage at himself, at all he'd lost, at all the time he'd thrown away. He looked in the mirror, didn't recognize the person staring back. But in that moment, a voice inside said, "You either die like this or start fighting for yourself." That was rock bottom. And that's when Troy finally got it. The pain of discipline is heavy, but it'll never weigh more than the regret of staying stuck. Because every day he chose comfort was another day he buried his own future. After that night, everything went quiet, but it wasn't peace. It was emptiness. Troy would stare at the ceiling, unable to lie to himself anymore. The character he'd created couldn't hold up. In that darkness, he finally asked a question he'd always avoided. Who am I really? And the answer hurt. He was a broken man, not because he failed, but because he never truly tried. Troy realized it wasn't talent he lacked. It was honesty, commitment, consistency. He needed to stop talking and start doing. He was the only one responsible for his downfall. Not his boss, not his rough childhood, not the lack of support. It was him. He remembered every time he self-sabotaged, every time he started something and didn't finish, every time he swapped discipline for distraction. He remembered the anger he felt seeing others win, without admitting that the envy came from his own inaction. Comparison dragged him down. Procrastination kept him stuck. His mind was a minefield, and he was walking through it barefoot. That's when the switch flipped. For the first time, Troy understood. He didn't need motivation. He needed a decision. He grabbed a piece of paper and wrote 3 words by hand, then stuck it on the wall. Identity, discipline, execution. He still didn't know exactly how he'd change everything. But he knew one thing. He'd never wake up as yesterday's man again, and he made himself a promise. Every day, 1 brick, 1 step, 1 silent win. The first few days were brutal. He wanted to quit. His body hurt. His mind played tricks, but this time, he didn't listen to that voice telling him to stop. He just kept going. Troy started waking up before the alarm. The path doesn't demand perfection, just persistence. Discipline became his armor. Consistency became his identity. And his mind finally started to break free. The old Troy still tried to pull him back, but he didn't give in, because the new Troy knew exactly who he was becoming. And once you start remembering who you are, nothing can stop you. The days that followed were the loneliest of Troy's life, not because there weren't people around, but because no one truly understood what he was battling on the inside. He woke up early, trained, studied, and did it all in silence. No applause, no likes, no audience. Just him versus himself. The pain came quickly, in his body, in his mind, in his soul. But this time, he didn't run from it. He stayed. He felt it, and he kept going. Troy learned that pain isn't a sign of weakness. Pain is the price of growth. Discipline was shaped inside the discomfort. Consistency was forged through friction. There were days when it all felt pointless, no results in sight. His mind screaming, why even bother? But he learned one of life's greatest lessons. The world responds to those who never stop. He quit waiting for motivation and started trusting execution. He realized not every day would be epic, but every day had to get done. The old Troy ran on emotion. The new Troy ran on structure, schedules, reps, reading, workouts, writing until his identity aligned with his new habits. What once seemed impossible became routine, and what became routine became his foundation. He started saying no to distractions, no to comparison, no to anything that drained his energy or delayed his mission. Slowly, Troy started walking differently, not because others noticed, but because he finally started respecting his own word, and that changes everything. He failed, he fell, he had setbacks, but he always came back. Because now he was loyal to the process, not to comfort. Every brick seemed small, but he knew one brick a day builds a man's fortress. While the world was asleep, Troy was working in the dark because he understood. Real growth happens far from the spotlight, but right next to purpose. Troy didn't need promises anymore. He had commitment, not to results, but to his own evolution. He was no longer a project of a man. He was a man under construction, with discipline, with direction, with consistency. The turning point didn't come in some dramatic moment. There was no applause, no viral video. The shift was the silent buildup of hard choices made every single day. Troy started becoming someone even he respected. His posture changed. His voice grew steady. His eyes focused. People started noticing. You seem different, man. But no one really knew what he had to face to become that different. Troy didn't talk about discipline anymore. He was disciplined. He became the definition of follow-through, of showing up, of staying steady. His mindset was now bulletproof. He stopped comparing himself to others because he finally knew exactly who he was and where he was going. Troy understood something crucial. The world respects people who are loyal to themselves. And real transformation happens when you act the same, on good days and on bad ones. He rebuilt his body, built his own business, earned back his family's respect. But above all, he rebuilt his character, not because of what he said, but because of what he kept doing, even when no one was watching. Now Troy carried consistency on his shoulders. Same routine, same effort, same focus. Day after day, week after week, the man who used to live off excuses now lived with purpose. He stopped running from pain, started using pain as his compass. Where it hurt, that's where he went. And that's exactly why he won. Not because he got lucky, but because he kept going when no one was watching, when everything still hurt, when nothing was working yet. Today, Troy doesn't have to tell his story. His life tells it for him. People see Troy now, but they don't see what he went through. Troy became unshakable. Not because everything worked out, but because he learned to keep going, even when nothing did. That's the power of choosing to evolve. That's what happens when discipline becomes identity. That's the weight of a story built in silence and told through impact.